Horror games weren't always the best in the mobile gaming up until very recently. We now have puzzle horror games, a million first-person horror shooters even, but most importantly, survival horrors. In any case, if you're into something like that, specifically no internet involved, there's a list of some of the best new horror games ready to go for your Android and iOS devices as well.
How does it feel to breathe when you're dead? They never seen you out of your bed. Cut to the bone is broken.
Sitting on the Play Store for over 3 months now, actually holding a 5 out of 5 and over 100,000 downloads. In case you miss out on the sequel over here, we have Horror Tale to Samantha. Obviously the follow-up to a decent survival horror puzzle game, and now an even better story, villain, and much better in visuals and gameplay. If you like the Ice Scream series, a legit gameplay for free and playable offline, this one's definitely a #1 recommendation.
Hello, Jack.
Coming from a couple of days later, as opposed to the first game, we've got here #2, the probably, I would say, the biggest horror game of 2023, Case to Animatronics. If you like a little bit of extra challenge, per se, Case to Animatronics is more than that to offer on top of a legitimate graphics for a PC to mobile port, technically, and a free game. There's one problem though, you need to be online to play this one initially, then you get an ad every time you die, but there's an offline option in the game where you need to purchase $1.
No. Not there.
#3, highly recommended for newcomers and the series' fans as well, I would have to say. We've got you, in case you missed it, Ice Scream 7 Friends Liz. It's a pretty decent return to the old parking lots and settings, and the addition of 2 more characters to choose from now. If you're a fan of story-based survival horror games, well, Ice Scream over here once again delivers to its utmost perfection. This game's been around for about 2 months now, and it's downloaded actually over 1 million times already. Check it out, the game's free and also bug-free. Alright, so been out there for barely a month by Euphoria Games, which is technically the most huge survival horror mobile game developer on the platform. Same developers behind Mimicry, with over 10 million downloads, all Death Park and Horror Tale games. We've got here now, from almost a month ago, a game called 9/11 Cannibal Horrorscape. Maybe an even better in story game compared to the whole series of games, and I'm almost sure the most accurate and probably the most challenging game if we're talking horror. Check it out, this game is actually free. Downloaded over 50,000 times since last year, we have a game called here Scary Land. Just a quick mention over here, this is a puzzle horror game, but at the same time the most chaotic in pace, with the biggest pool of monsters for this type of game, and frankly one of the most annoying games on the platform, if you decide to play the game online though. Scary Land's actually got a nice story, real good graphics, and the controls in this game are actually really nice. At #6 from almost 2 years ago, with over 100,000 downloads on the Play Store, we've got something called No Rest. The story is about a man who's lucky enough to visit a pretty interesting little town, but then unlucky enough all the while to find out a little late that it's all going down as he's now chased by some murdering maniac. Anyway, this game is graphically a PC game. It's free, a little bit hard in gameplay mechanics, but what it lacks in that department specifically, it actually makes up in other elements all the way. It's a good game. Coming up at #7, we have, with almost 1 million downloads since a few months ago only, something called Witch Cry. A lot of people have been talking about this one. This is actually from the same developers of Ice Scream games, and somehow a neck and a head above the entire series in story, the gameplay, and also the AI. If you like survival escape style games, Witch Cry over here, by the way, this is an entry point for its series here, is definitely a good game. It's free all the way, with a pretty unique twist compared to the company's other games. Zombie Hunter, on the other hand, is, I would say, the definition of a perfect offline game. This one's been out there for almost 3 years now with a 4.6 out of 5 and over 10 million downloads ever since, guys. I couldn't recommend this game enough, specifically if you're into House of the Dead games, more so the recent one. This game's free, has in-app purchases only if you'd like to go a little crazy, huge in scale, and quite amazing in every single department for a bit of a horror shooter. Check it out in case you missed it. Only work of its developer. As a atmospheric story-heavy horror game at basics, we've got here since August 2019 a game called Eleanors Stairway. This is hands down one of the scariest games on the Play Store, about a tad just short compared to the most. This game actually has most of the high points of the PC game Layers of Fear. Whatever that game had to offer, playable actually all the way offline. It's free for some reason, taking you down about 150 megabytes initially, and I've never ever heard of a bug. At number 10 from a few weeks ago, sitting on the Play Store with now 10,000 downloads, not a free game, but taking you down for $50 only. A survival horror story-based shooter game called The Fall, which I like to imagine is what you'd get by mixing The Last of Us a little bit and The Walking Dead, throw in a little bit of first-person and puzzle elements, and then you get a mobile port of a mix of all of those. If you like, there's a demo for this one, which is also offline. Both links down in the description. This game though has one problem, it doesn't speak English. It does actually have subtitles. Coming up behind that at number 11, we've got over here Deadly Nightmare, sitting on the Play Store with a 3.5 out of 5 and about 10,000 downloads worldwide ever since a year and a half back. Really be cruel if I didn't say that this is actually one of the best offline horror games out there that offers a legit story on top of a handful of really juicy jump scares. Deadly Nightmare is about the story of a little boy coming over to visit his grandma after finding out she's not having the best of her days and now finds out that she's dead. Anyway, this game is also free.
The Book of Curses is mine! Give it to me!
Downloaded over 5 million times since roughly 6 months ago. In case you missed it, we've got over here a Backrooms game, just the silliest game in the list today, but simultaneously I would have to say the most adrenaline pumping out there, period. You all familiar with the idea of Backrooms horror games? All you really need to know here about this one is that in this game you're supposed to survive running away from the Rock. A granny, the Obunga specifically, and you get the point. Anyway, this game's free and also playable offline. At number 13, we've got here once again The Baby in Yellow. This is another first-person horror game, in case you're unfamiliar with, where you find yourself in this house with a very strange baby, and you'll be playing the role of a babysitter. Anyway, back when this game came out, it was actually one of the first games in like forever that actually had a fresh twist in gameplay for a horror game. Was creepy, mighty in visuals for a mobile game. Baby in Yellow is a tad short, is the only thing that maybe still needs work, and it's ever since 2 years ago been downloaded over 50 million times, which is insane for a horror game. Anyway, moving on. Number 14, it is Slender the Arrival. I would say one of the more honorable horror games of the past couple of years, sitting on the Play Store with about 100,000 downloads as a very underrated atmospheric horror game and just about the same gameplay that the game had to offer when it was first released on PCs. It's a first-person atmospheric focused survival, quite challenging, very nice in visuals, don't really mind a trailer, it's kinda not the gameplay, game's legitimately scary. It also then takes you down about 1 gigabyte of storage. Not necessarily a horror game, but an action horror shooter. You could say zombie shooter, but there is a lot more where zombies come from in this game specifically. This is just an honorable mention over here, guys. At number 15, we have Underground 2077. Graphically, gameplay-wise, and collectively, this game is huge in scale, has every bit of elements of a console quality, let's say, Metro game that had to offer. It's playable offline, and in case you missed it, it's about only 200 megabytes in size, initially. Touted as a puzzle horror game, but definitely an action strategy horror game, if that even makes sense. At number 16 we have Animatronics, short for Let Me Do It For You, I don't know. Horror game, Let Me Do It For You has been out there for almost 2 months. It's downloaded only 1,000 times, but if we're being really fair, this game has legit puzzles, nothing bad to talk about over here, it has no bugs, it's free, and if you're smart, it's actually playable offline. Coming from the same folks at Kelperians, developers behind all Ice Scream games once again. We've got here the sequel to great entry at number 17, once again Mr. Meat, that's actually regarded numerously as one of the best survival horror games ever made. I highly recommend playing the first game here. For those of you new, this is a mix of Haunting Ground, the console PlayStation 2 game, / just a zombie survival. It's free, playable offline, and a few notches up in every single element compared to the first game. With no story to get a good grip, at number 18 we have horror Charlie Spider Train. You all know where this idea came from, except that this Choo Choo Charles inspired, well technically cloned, is legitimately developed to be great. It's just the same survival horror shooter like the PC game period, no real replay value over here or loot, story to follow, and not that many items to just mess around with. In any case, Spider Train's free and playable also optionally offline. And last but not least, from precisely 2 years ago, we have a DD demo. A full game taking you down about $2 if you like. DD is a puzzle horror stealth-based game, quite a bit like most indie horror games on Steam. But for a mobile exclusive, here it's actually built like an Unreal Engine made game. Nothing specific, you can either buy this one or watch it on YouTube if you don't even like to play it offline. The game is really worth the $2 price, and I've actually never ever heard of a bug, so.